Recorded in the darkest dungeons of the Basement of Death studio, Josh, Troy, and Ty present a show dedicated to bringing you, the listener, into the adventure right along with them. Pick up your sword or load your bolt gun, but don't forget your helmet, because it is time for some Playin and Slayin. Live from the BOD studios, it is Playin and Slayin, episode 59. Welcome back to the show, Brice.
I'm back.
I feel like this is a moment in time that will live as an all-time great episode because it's the return of Brice.
I'm off to a pretty bad start. I forgot that we're a video podcast now, so oops.
You will look really good on YouTube. Whatever image we find for you, the 7 people that watch on YouTube will be amazed at the quality of image that is displayed for you. And because it is the return of Brice, we also have a very hobby-minded, hobby-focused episode tonight. So we are going to throw away the resolutions from 2021 because, quite honestly, we don't remember them and we don't want to remember them. And we are going to introduce a brand new 2022 hobby challenge. So we did the hobby accountability challenge for a while, gave some money to charity, which was great. But we're going to get into what our new hobby challenge looks like for the year ahead. And we are also in our main topic, in that same vein of hobby challenges, goals, and aspirations. We're going to talk about some of our own personal individual hobby goals for 2022. So I think we will talk about lots of painting and building and all sorts of stuff this year. So Brice, it's good you're back as our hobby coach and hobby enthusiast to guide us into the adventure of 2022.
Appreciate it. I think that Josh, though, might be taking my role. He's the one that's been hobbying lately, so.
Not really.
The blank look on Josh's face was exactly what we needed. Just like the perfect amount. Without further ado, I think it is important that we cover all our bases. And first and foremost, when you're playing and slaying, it's important to stay hydrated. So what episode of Playin and Slayin wouldn't get started with some description of what we're drinking tonight? I feel like kicking it off. And now that I have a camera, I have BTO by Eagle Park Brewing. Kind of cool, flashy design. It is a Bock beer. And I believe the theme is probably Bachman Turner Overdrive, BTO, as a Bock beer. So it's kind of that sweeter, aromatic, little like, I guess you'd say nutty, but, it's that good, just Bock style beverage. It's nice and crisp. I think it's only around 5% alcohol. So it's not too heavy, not overly sweet, but really enjoyable. Eagle Park continues to be one of my favorite little breweries in the Milwaukee area. They're probably a close second behind Third Space these days for favorite Milwaukee brewery. So that's what I've got, a BTO Bock beer.
Awesome.
Troy, what do you have?
I just want to know what was the one song that Bachman Turner Overdrive had. I can't think of it right now. Come on.
Oh, man.
Although you guys are a lot younger than I am, I should know it. I should be the one that telling you what it is, but it's old even for me. So shoot,
I got nothing for you.
It'll come back to me. So I am double fisting kind of boring non-alcoholic things. I have the Four Sigmatic mushroom coffee in my superhero mug because I needed as much caffeine as possible for that. And then for Will Conway, I have Zevia as my backup drink here today for a little bit more caffeine.
I'm sure he'll appreciate that.
I'm sure he will.
Taking care of business.
And
you ain't seen nothing yet.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And Let It Ride. Or
From early 70s, probably. I think.
Yeah,
Something like that.
yeah.
Yep.
For sure.
So I was alive, but not really paying attention.
You were. I was alive.
I don't know if it played through or not. My microphone filter usually cuts off background noise, so we'll have to do a different overlay. But I started playing Taking Care of Business just as Troy finished. I was trying to hold up the phone to the mic, but all right. Speaking of taking care of business, since Troy's got his Will Conway jabbing Zevia and his what care of business for you tonight?
I have a Hop Valley Brewing Company Stash Panda.
Dash Panda.
It is a hazy IPA with cryo hops, which are like a proprietary hop. So it's not something like a lot of people use. Kind of has a citra taste, sort of. So it's good. It's kind of grapefruity, hazy IPA. It's pretty good.
And where is this Hop Valley Brewing out of?
Hop Valley Brewing is out of Eugene, Oregon.
Excellent. Well, speaking of Eugene, Oregon, Brice, what are you drinking? No segue there, but I made it happen.
No, that
anyways.
was perfect. My girlfriend actually used to work at this little brewery down in Neenah called Barrel 41. And she's been convincing me to try out some of their beers. And this one's actually, I really like it. It's called Mateo's Revenge. It's a milk stout. And it's the little description on it is a little Mexican flair brewed with cocoa nibs, vanilla, cinnamon, and habanero peppers.
That sounds really good.
It's very tasty. I think you would like it a lot. And I don't know how like hyper local Festival is with their selection of local craft beers, but they do have it there, so it might be you guys don't have festivals down there, huh?
Oh, we do now. There's a festival right down the road from me.
Well, maybe check it out. They have it, and I think you would like it a lot.
It sounds so. There's a beer by Stone Brewing called Zoko Vesa that we've enjoyed in the past, it sounds similar to that. So I bet I'd like it. Mateo's Revenge.
Yep.
Excellent. Well, speaking of Mateo and Revenge, let's talk about the games we've been playing. Even though none of them have had a character named Mateo or really a revenge theme. It sounds like
we might be able to manufacture a revenge theme in here somehow, but
yeah, I guess, revenge theme. Let's start with rather than how we usually do it in reverse. Let's start with Dungeons and Dragons, Rime of the Frostmaiden. So some health issues have kept Brice away from the D&D online table, as I think he's been going to bed around 7:00 at night. But
those were late nights.
The rest of us have been playing D&D every Wednesday or so, and I want to hear from you guys if the arrival and the path to Yithrin was what you expected, or less or more, and if Yithrin as advertised delivered.
I think the trip was pretty interesting, like through the glacier, right? And and just getting to the glacier, right? The amount of, I think we've talked in the past about our trial and tribulation just to figure out how to get to the glacier. But once then you're like, oh, let's speak I had to read a poem. It was kind of like English class in D&D, so I had to read a poem, and then the glacier split
Your reading
open.
Your reading skills were up to par,
Okay.
so you passed that ability check without needing to even roll dice.
Yeah.
Troy can read.
Wonderful.
Can confirm.
Yeah, public education came through, and then we split the glacier. No spoilers here, I guess, but and then we and then I don't know, and then we were kind of wandering around through these ice tunnels and found and I don't know, there were multiple ways through, and I don't know if we took the easy way, the hard way, the average way, as we look back, because I think we didn't, like, there was stuff we didn't go through all of it, if I remember right. We found one way.
Yeah.
And we're like,
yeah, you
this seems like the way through, let's go. without exploring all the different nooks and crannies in there. And then we kind of we ran into some elf, no, Sylvan Dryad person. I had to go through all my fairy creatures. Who, yeah, she was interesting, and then she kind of pointed us like, hey, go walk this way, and then it opened up on this. I think we're all kind of just like, whoa, like there's this pretty much huge city kind of stuck underneath the ice, that now we have to figure out kind of where to go and what to do. So our first steps into there were to play, I don't know what we played, Quidditch or football,
like
or something
dodgeball.
like that.
Yeah, it was like dodgeball in a chain lightning arena. That was pretty fun. Yeah, so now you're in the necropolis of Yithrin, the ancient fallen Netherese city. So
yeah, I think people were surprised when the word necropolis was thrown out. I don't know. I think there was some bait and switch possibly, or people weren't listening when the description was thrown out there, because they're like, what, a dead city, and they're like, hold it. There was kind of a lot of clues to that. Really, I don't know if you were paying attention. So
yeah, for those of you keeping score at home, it was presented to you as a lost city, albeit a lost city from
Full of treasure.
4,000 years ago, full of treasure and buried deep within the ice. All right, Josh, any predictions of what happens to you guys in Yithrin?
I missed last episode, so
You threw a lot of Eldritch Blasts.
I believe that I did. Yeah, no, I think it'll be disgusting. I think we'll have to fight some people.
Will there be treasure?
Maybe a little bit. Maybe some like magical items and something. I don't know. Maybe like a sweet cloak for, hiding people.
We'll see. I'm just figuring if we find customers, if we find that because there's rumors of some drow and some other creatures, underground creatures that may frequent the area. I think if we can find customers, I've heard that we might just open a restaurant, reopen a franchise of
just
the soup
stay
kitchen.
forever.
Yeah, if we just open a soup kitchen franchise, and then that's it. That's
might have some supply chain issues, but
yeah,
we can get the pot there.
We know. Yeah. Well, now we know the way, right? It's not a we can just...
Wonderful. Well, sticking with the theme of cities, not necropolises, let's talk first about Magnate. So I introduced you guys to that game. It had been kickstarted and delivered in the fall. I bought it at retail from Noble Knight. Magnate is a game ultimately focused on real estate development, where you're purchasing plots of land, attempting to develop them with a specific type of building, industry, housing, office, or retail. Different types of those buildings then attract tenants, collect rent, and sell those properties in advance of an inevitable collapse of the market that is always going to happen to trigger the game end. But you're trying to be the most successful developer and have the most funds in hand. So, I don't know if we want to go round robin with some thoughts. I know I've played a handful of times now. That was your guys' first time playing at the game night. Any kind of early thoughts on Magnate as a game and kind of concept? And then we can certainly touch. I think the coolest part is the components, like the art, the boards, the little plastic buildings. But any first thoughts or kind of a condensed review from Josh or Troy on Magnate?
Yeah, no, it was really, really fun. And to get your tenants or to get your office workers or retail folks or whatever, essentially they're little piles of each type. And so sometimes certain rounds where you don't have enough of that type, somebody can jump in ahead of you and recruit those types of folks to their buildings and then you're kind of left out in the cold. And it's a
That's
fun.
right. That happened near your housing project.
Yeah, it became sort of a tenement because it was yeah, what did we call it? Some sort of housing project. I forget the name of it, but it was funny.
Yeah, I swiped all the home tenants, the people away from you. I bid to go first, and then took the tenants from my own apartment building and left you with nothing.
Like the next 4 rounds, we got maybe like 2 more people, and I don't know if that I got any more. But yeah, no, that's a fun addition to the game where you're sort of fighting each other for not only board control but also like control of the tenants for those buildings as well. So it's a cool little flair to that game.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it. Looking back as you're describing it, I think the mechanics are all really solid. I mean, there's really some really interesting mechanics. They're all really solid. They all make sense for kind of the variable game length, the what do you want to call it, right? There's resource limitations, which make the turn order bidding make sense. It's like all the mechanics are in there, and they all kind of make sense for how they interact with each other. And so it was. I had a lot of fun. I think I ended up winning, and I have no idea how I did that. I kind of was watching Ty early, like, oh, because and I'm like, oh, okay, I kind of get it. This is how you kind of make money, yeah, right? Flip real estate and whatever. So I was kind of trying to follow a Ty Zoom, but not exactly, because if I did that, I would just lose, behind, because he would do it better. So, but yeah, it was all in the end. It was kind of that end game scenario, right? And you're all it's as you warned us, Ty. You're like, you got to kind of figure out when to get out, because that when the game ends and everything basically there's a housing crash, and you want to get out before that. And you can kind of tell when it's coming, but at some point. And we got lucky in that it became very obvious, right? We
we knew with a certainty. I think you brought up a good point about knowing when to get out, and I didn't say that. So if you haven't liquidated your properties, anything left at the end of the crash is significantly devalued to the point where you've lost out of your initial investment, and you're getting pennies on the dollar for wholesaling the property basically at the end. So if you haven't managed your actions well, and you have too many properties, and then the market crashes, you're using everything on those properties that you have left. But overall, I mean, I'll be honest, I hadn't really heard about it when it was on Kickstarter or in the development. I caught wind of it via like a tweet, a random tweet that some game reviewer or somebody had it in a stack of games. And then as I looked it up, I'm like, oh, this sounds like a game that kind of mixes some other, like, it had elements of, I think, Ted Alspach's Suburbia, certainly, and some like Acquire, if you go way back into the old board games, where you're like building your stock, your hotel stock empire. So there were familiarity with some other games, but it was really its own. I can't think of anything that plays close to it. I mean,
Right.
Yep.
And the miniatures too were really cool. So like the little houses and the apartment buildings and the mall, and they're all like really well done miniatures.
Yeah, I mean,
models, I guess.
the game board is really those neighborhood tiles, and as you build up the buildings, they start to look like a developed city. You have your houses, you have these tall apartment buildings, like the plastic injection molded buildings are like fill out your board on the little card footprints that you put down that show like the parking lots or the driveways, what have you. So yeah, as you go, the longer you play, you've built out these neighborhoods, and you have this cool little 3D kind of cityscape in front of you that you're playing over.
Yeah, this definitely was a big factor of the game, and I think that, plus it's a solid game. Like I said, I think right, we've seen games like that have all really cool components, and then maybe they're average like game mechanics. But I think it's a really solid game as a base to it, and then it's just kind of the frosting on it is the fact that they did a really nice job with all the components.
Yeah, so that's Magnate. I think it's Magnate the First City is like the full name of it. Designer was James Naylor, and I think it's James Naylor Games, or Naylor Games is his own kind of publishing arm. So definitely check it out. It's well worth it. Do we keep going with the city? I mean, there's a very city themed flavor to our playing segment recently. But this was an accomplishment in of itself, because we finished our first legacy style game. We've been playing My City for the last 4 months ish at game nights, getting through the 8 chapters and the 24 episodes. So I won't say too much. We've talked about My City in the past, so I don't know that we need to describe it, but I think it's worth talking about the game experience of finishing the legacy segment, like how that felt the last few chapters, and then maybe we each share like if we have any interest in playing the base game without the legacy, that it gives you an option to play. So I'll let Josh or Troy, when you guys start with kind of overall thoughts of the accomplishment of finishing, and then anything unique to the play experience for the last few episodes.
Yeah, I mean, first off, I'm very proud of us. So well done, gentlemen. It was good that we got a legacy game completed. Right, that's a neat little thing to hang your hat on. But yeah, I mean, like you said, we kind of talked about it, but like all the different episodes where it's like, you're adding the mines, or you're adding the railroads, or all the different stuff. It's super fun. And they're kind of baby stepping you through all those new rules and stuff. And I thought that was really excellent. And I'd be interested to try the standalone part of the game, just to see how it plays. But kind of like we talked about at the end, when we played the other night, it almost feels like some of those fun rules that we got to know and love are going to be just thrown out the window, right? So, I'm interested. I'm interested to try it. I feel like it might fall a little flat compared to the legacy style portion of that game.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I think I'd be in that, as we talked about a little bit when we finished it. Like, hey, like I don't know that I would like, hey, bring it to the table because we want to play the My City mechanic, right? It's kind of interesting. It's like in the end, the cool part was just getting new rules each time and having to think about something a little different. And even, I don't know, it was interesting. Like as we got towards the end, we were kind of like, yeah, we wanted to get to the end. So we're kind of like, let's make it. But I almost felt like I wanted to stay with some of those rules, because you really only got, like, each game in some ways was unique, right? Like you only got like a set of rules.
You get
for
the 3. Yeah,
like
you get
three
like
were
the
pretty
3.
close, right? And but then rules started to pay, and it almost like you wanted to be in some of those a little longer. We were all sad sometimes when, oh, now the mine's closed, and right, and or something else like that. Sorry, spoiler. Yeah. So I think it was a little bit. Yeah, it was good to get to the end, but there was something about it. Would have been kind of cool in some ways to continue that legacy. But we need a My City 2, I guess, or something. To come out, because I don't know that I would pull the base game out, right? I think I would I would dive in if they was like, we redid, he made a My City 2 similar in legacy style, that we
or an expansion into. Take your boards and add on 3 or 4 episodes. I said this off air, when we played, and we talked about how we kind of broke it down after playing. I have zero desire to play the original game, having just glanced at the rules. Like the legacy portion, the adding new rules each time, that was what made it interesting to me, and how they all fit together. And then the base game that you can play with, like the flip side of your board, just it has zero appeal to me. I don't think there would be any fun to. It feels like going backwards and playing like a simpler version of the game, without. I think like 80% of the rules that were meaningful that were introduced, they really skimmed it down to what feels like a bare bones. And had I not played through the legacy, maybe I'd like that. Maybe it would appeal to me. But having finished the campaign, if you will, I really don't have any desire to ever go back and play the default setting. I mean, I'd almost rather play the last episode multiple times, and like keep going with the city we made versus going back and playing the base.
Yeah, I feel like, adapting to the new rules or the new, whatever mechanic it was part of the fun of the legacy, right? Like,
Yeah.
you're doing one thing for these earlier episodes, and then you're kind of having to rethink of how do I maximize my points in this new episode, adapting throughout the game was really a good chunk of the fun. So yeah. You kind of lose that with the standalone, right? Where it's the non-legacy portion.
So strongly recommend, I think all three of us are giving it the 2 thumbs up, so to speak, to play through the legacy campaign of my city, and 5 of 6 thumbs down, maybe. Maybe there's 1 thumb out there for trying the base game. But that was our experience with My City by Reiner Knizia, so legendary designer. We talked about just the mind explosion of rules and how it's all layered in and done is pretty awesome. So I think, some legacy games add scenarios or characters or new actions, but this really revolutionized. Each time you open an envelope, you're getting a totally different dynamic to the game. So strong recommendation for that. I'll just real quick played some more HeroQuest with my brother and Landon. They're really enjoying it. We had our first character death. Emrith the wizard died and is no more. So Landon was concerned about how we would get a new wizard, and he told Tom, he said, whoever we get to be the new wizard, we can't tell them what happened to the old wizard. So a little bit of side narrative. So Emrith has been erased from the histories. He no longer existed. So when they get a new wizard, it's just, oh yeah, we need a wizard now. It's not your replacement. It will not speak of he who came before. And the wizard died because Landon's dwarf ran kind of off by himself and didn't stay back to protect the wizard. And then the wizard got exposed and died to a wandering monster that then attacked. And it was an ugly ending to that poor wizard. So HeroQuest continues to be a lot of fun. I'm not sure if you can get it now through them just from an order backing after the Hasbro Pulse backed, but if it is available, I highly recommend it. Components are great. It's just such a good repackaging of the original with some new new models and a couple new quest books and expansions. So HeroQuest is getting to the table pretty often. How about you guys? What have you been playing without me?
So the 4-year-old has still been on a tear of wanting to play a game every night, and she
Awesome.
goes through these little spurts of wanting to play the same game. And so that for the last week, we've been playing Guess Who. The little game with the little standees that on the little board,
Oh
and then
yeah.
you flip them down. Yeah, it's
You
old
ask the
school, right?
questions. Do they have glasses?
Right. Yeah. And there's all the people, and then there's food, and there's sea creatures, and yeah, so she's having a blast with that.
They had food and sea creatures. What happened to the old guy with glasses and
Oh,
brown
he's
hair?
there.
But
Yep, he's there too. Yeah.
they've
So
added
there's
sea
little cards
creatures.
you can slide in and out this full card
Oh,
of
wow.
new stuff.
My goodness.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. So
Guess Who is advanced?
yeah, and I showed her the trick where you fold down the the board, and then you kind of just rub your hand across them to open up the doors. And she's like, "Oh, that's so cool."
Oh, to be
So-
4 again.
I know, right? But yeah, it's good. She's learning the little tricks. If the food's on a plate, there's like a chunk of them that are on a plate. So she's been asking questions to get rid of large swaths of them, which is excellent. She will still ask when we play the food one, "Do you have candles?" Because the birthday cake is the one I think is her favorite. And she always wants me to be the birthday cake. I don't always oblige, but yeah. Anyway, yeah, it's been fun.
Excellent. Are these next several yours, Troy, or did
Yep.
Brice throw a game? Did Brice sneak in any games played?
I have a game I could sneak in real quick.
Sure, do it.
Yeah.
So we were looking for a game that we could play on like Friday nights or whatever, and I came across it's a subscription game called Hunt a Killer, where
Yes.
every week you get a box, or not every week, every month you get a box, and it's expensive, but
Mhm.
it's incredible how much they put into it. Like the amount of extra stuff that comes in the amount of stuff you can research online and learn more, and they send you emails throughout the month, and you're basically a private detective trying to solve this murder from back in the 1800s.
Which box are you doing?
The theater.
The theater. Okay.
Yeah, so someone was found in the locked in a trunk in the attic, and we did the first one and have the second one up, ready to go. And basically, the first one you were trying to figure out what the murder weapon was, and then if you did, you'd get the next clue. But there's all this extra stuff too. So we spent probably a good 2 hours doing all this extra stuff that didn't matter at all to the murder weapon, which we knew in like the first 2 minutes. But we got so caught up in the puzzles and stuff that it's really cool. I mean, we've had a lot of fun doing it. Like I said, it's like $30 per box, but it's super, super, super well done, and I'm excited to get into the next ones.
Yeah, they're enjoyable. A couple of years ago, I got Nicole a 12-month subscription, so you get 2 cases because each case is like 6 months, I think.
Yeah.
So we did the class reunion, which was a fun one, and then I forget the other one that we've got that we haven't done yet. But yeah, it's a nice like experiential kind of puzzle solving. Each week you eliminate, or each box you eliminate a suspect, or you figure out one new element of the case. Reading through statements and everything. So yeah, that's Hunt a Killer is fun. I saw at Target they also have 1 or 2 like self-contained single box for like $30 or so, where you can buy a case. One's like a summer camp, and the other's like a dive bar or something like that.
Oh, nice.
Excellent. That makes me happy. Because next from there, Brice, what we do is we get you playing Detective by Portal Games.
I was gonna ask you what that game was, because I know that I think you and Paul were talking about it maybe, and I was trying to remember what it was because I was telling her about it, and she's super into that kind of stuff, so I want to maybe try to introduce that one.
Highly recommend Detective. It's similar, only there aren't like the props, but you use your laptop or an iPad and you log into the database where you find clues. So like you'll open a folder in a database and it'll be like fingerprint scans or a map of a location, or like somebody's like interview or a witness statements, stuff like that. So you use the app to help get clues and determine what you're doing. And then the cards you play from a deck of cards that ultimately reveal new things to investigate. But you're solving a crime. It's super fun, and the database, the app integration is really interesting how it's done.
Nice.
All right, then let's kick it to Troy for his
sure.
His
so
list
it was Christmas. So we had holidays, and all the Weisses were together. So I have a pretty good. We've been playing games when we were all together. So most of these are that. There's other one thrown there. So maybe I'll start with the theme. We played a lot, and I've talked a little about before. A lot is Chronicles of Crime. when we had a lot. Ben was up here, and we played through a couple of scenarios with kind of a whole group of us. And so maybe Brice, that's kind of maybe, I don't know, maybe in between the detective and the what's the other one that you could just have, the murder one?
Hunted Killer.
Hunted Killer. But it also has an app, card based, but I don't think not quite as involved as detective. You kind of get through the scenarios in about an hour-ish, depending on how much you goof around and how much you really want to be completely sure that you've got it figured out or and uncovered every rock around some of that. So I reckon that's a lot of fun. And Ty, thank you. Ty got me an expansion for that game, and I think we'll play it a little bit more. It's a great game and it was nice because you can play with however many people you want, because you're all just kind of helping figure out the story and you're telling a story and they really, so we had some non-gamer people, my brother's wife and other people who aren't, and we had a couple of the kids playing too around that. So that was good. The other one we just played over the weekend was John brought over World of Warcraft Wrath of the Lich King board game. Which is really, I want to say a reskin. It's a re-implementation because it's different. It's a pandemic engine underneath the hood, with World of Warcraft over top of it. A lot, and really got some really cool miniatures in it. Again, because you got the Blizzard license. It's Z-Man Games, which I don't know. I think Ty, maybe if we even go back to old episodes of this podcast, we would maybe be down on Z-Man Games, but I think what they really turned around. I can't think who the guy was that went over there. I think he moved from one of the other companies and went over there to Z-Man, and I think they're really be doing some really good games, great components. Mm-hmm. They really upped their game and stuff, and this is just another example of that. So we played that with, again, I think my niece, who's a little younger, and then Ashton and John and I, and of course they're big Warcraft people, right? So they know all the people. So if you have some of that, all the players are there. But I really like the end, like the game itself was, pandemic-y, but a little bit lighter, and definitely kind of had a good theme as you're going around. You basically have to worry about one, you're trying to solve quests instead of putting out diseases. So you're basically doing a bunch of activities. And then you do have ghouls that are spawning on different locations that you do have to kind of keep under control. And then there's like an abomination, and then there's the Lich King himself, and he kind of moves around the board, but all he does is kind of make certain areas. And there's like 3 different areas or countries, when I think about it, that have locations around them, around that. So that was fun. I mean, that was something I would play again. Again, it's kind of a little bit lighter, I would think, than Pandemic, but a lot of fun and played pretty fast. The other, I actually ran into or went over to Dan's this week, and we played Relic, which is the kind of 40K, basically a reskin. That one is, I'll call that more of a reskin than World of Warcraft is the re-implementation, because it's pretty much the same rules, just different cards in that. If you play of the old Talisman game from Games Workshop,
right?
Yeah. So I had not played. I probably had played Talisman, like we're going like 30 years ago, right? That game came out in the
correct me if I'm wrong. 80s. Talisman and Relic is pretty much just a moving around the board, right?
Yeah, like, you just want to get to the center. You want to get to the center of the board, and you basically have to build up your character by doing things on the outer one, and then you're like, oh, now I'm strong enough, I move to the inner one, and it's all about just kind of take your chance around. When do you go into the final square in the middle? Can you defeat it? But it's pretty, and it's kind of the, press your luck in some ways. And it's pretty harsh, because if you kind of lose out, rather you kind of go back to nothing and have to start over. So the knock on the game always is a little bit that it can, you can be non-competitive if somebody kind of gets knocked out, and then they're trying, it takes a long time for them to build up, and it can kind of overstay its welcome a little bit. But this was fun. Yeah, for 2-player, Dan and I had a blast. It was fun, and he had a little house rule where you actually kind of, instead of rolling 1 die to figure out where you go on the board, we roll 2 die, and you kind of take the better one. So it helped move the game along a little faster and gave you some better options. And it was fun. And we actually ended up, He ended up beating me by like one square, kind of. That we both kind of built up our characters pretty good, and then dove in the middle. So, but I had fun, a lot of good. I mean, it is really good, rich 40K like theming on that game, so I can see why people could enjoy that, and I agree, like have some house rules and and make sure that you work over all the weaknesses that Talisman has are still there in some ways, but they did do some stuff to try and keep it a little better. So that was fun on that one. Maybe this one, I don't know, Josh, if you got any Pokemon in your house, but we broke out. John gave me his copy of Pokemon Rumble, which is a game that's no longer actually in print. It's just a really simplified version of, it's like an arena battle with, you kind of take a set of whatever, 24 Pokemons, and you put them out on a board, and then there's some dice that give you their Pokemon powers, and then they all battle against each other. And then basically the person you each pick a couple of the Pokemon, and then whoever kind of gets the most points at the end wins. So it's super light, really complete, kids that are probably 5 or 6 or so can definitely get through it. You need them, because I don't know, I'm too old to play Pokemon because I can't read the cards. I don't know what, like, they're not right. I'm used to Magic cards, and those aren't too bad, right? But the text on Pokemon cards is like tiny. I don't know how people figure that out. So maybe that's
old man Weiss.
Yeah, that's it. Like, I got to get bigger. I got to get better bifocals, I guess, to read those things. But
where's my readers?
Yeah, or that's why I have to have young kids, so I can say, what does this say? What kind of, and they all know. So we got a game of that. That was fun because we had everybody, bunch of all the nieces and nephews kind of thrown in that, plus the adults, and that's a fun one. And then when we were kind of up north, we broke out a couple games, a roll and write called Floorplan, that I looped my 2 nieces to play. I think nieces playing with me. And it's just a kind of a roll and write, which is about building a house. And basically the dice give you different rooms and different furnishings and stuff to put in the house. And then you're just trying to build the best house out of that. And there's some basically cards that give you different points for trying to build certain kinds of, like, hey, you need a pool with a patio, or you need a room that opens up onto 2 windows on the stuff. You're all, so you're just a typical roll and write. You're just, in the end, you're just trying to kind of guess where you are, and your choices that you make early in the game usually come back and haunt you late because you never can get exactly what you want. But kind of a fun little roll and write game that people enjoyed in there. And then I think I talked a little bit about the crew that we had played on Boardgame Arena. And we broke out the real game and played with 4 people, I think, on that, which the more people is tougher. I'm trying to think, maybe we played with 5, which is all tougher. And we ended up playing for most of, I can't remember, that might have been New Year's Eve or something else, that we had a good crew. And then basically the crew is all, right, the mechanic is it's a trick-taking game where you basically have a deck of cards from like 1 to 9 plus a trump deck. And then, but the fun part of it is you go through the different scenarios. There's, I think, 50 scenarios in the book, and they all give you, and then there's basically, I would call them, I can't think of, objective kind of cards. And basically what they all tell you is how you have to take the tricks. So like the 5 of us you'll pull out the objective cards, and, I have to win the trick with the pink 2, and John has to win the trick with the green 9, and then there's some mechanics there, so you can, and it basically, you can't talk. That's the trick, or you can't talk specifically about what cards you have, is kind of the mechanic on there. So that was fun to play with 5. It was difficult, and we ended up playing probably about 5 or 6 of the different scenarios, and they get increasingly a little bit tougher and more challenging. But I can understand why that game hasn't won a lot of awards, and people kind of enjoy it because it is a fun, because it is kind of a brain burner around. There's ways to solve the problems usually, but there's a little bit of luck, right? Because people have to kind of understand what hints you're kind of giving them, because there's limited information on that. So
more a game than the mind.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but the only similarity with the mind was it's cards, and you can't really share information, right?
Talk,
Or you
right.
can't share information about what cards you have. But it's but in this, again, there's some mechanics that you can share certain pieces of information, and so
Got
that's
it.
why there's much more strategy around. Hey, you can basically share things like what's your highest card of a certain suit, or what's your lowest card of a certain suit, or do I only have this card? And so with that kind of you're kind of building a puzzle around. All right, with those pieces of information, how can we figure out how can we get the tricks to fall so that the right people end up with the right cards? So fun game. I think that's it.
Deal.
Did I forget everything? Nope.
I think that's what we're playing. And another month goes by where I haven't played a game of Age of Sigmar 3rd edition.
Damn.
I don't know if I'll ever go back.
4th edition will be here soon.
Yeah. Maybe 4th will get me. Let's talk about hobby. So before we talk about our new hobby challenge for 2022, the new format, let's talk about the hobby we've been getting done. As always, mine is acquisition, not constructive hobby, but so several months ago burned out the air compressor that Troy had given to me. Started a small electrical fire in my house and had been without a compressor for a while. So I went and used a Amazon gift card to pick up a new air compressor that has 6 more than whatever version of it Josh had. So I'm gonna airbrush like 6 points better, because mine was like the TC 186 or 206 or something, and yours was like a 180 or a 200. I don't remember exactly, but mine is like 6 better. So
6 more, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm gonna airbrush six more than you every time we airbrush. But I think a compressor acquisition counts as hobby. So I'm gonna check it off for having something in the hobby column for the last month or so.
That works for me.
I feel like somebody else may have also gotten a new compressor after Josh, given show notes. Troy, what kind of setup did you get? I thought you had a really great setup,
Well,
and you got an even better one.
I had an old tankless compressor like that I'd given you, basically the same one I'd given you at some point, kind of that cheap one. And so you guys got me like, oh, well, maybe I should just get these. These look cooler, and they're not that expensive.
One.
Yeah.
This is the burned out. This doesn't work anymore, but
and
this is why you should watch us on YouTube and not just listen.
Yeah.
Yeah, it got very hot, and
they get hot if you're running for a long time, and I think they kind of lose a little bit of juice as they get hot too, and some of that. So I did that, and then over Christmas, on a total whim, I had bought a new the Squidmar new. He did his own line of the Harder and Steenbeck airbrush, and so that was a Christmas present to myself. And it only because it ended up coming around Christmas. I don't know. That wasn't entirely intentional. It just ended up that it showed up, and then any package that shows up within 2 weeks of Christmas gets put under the tree and called for Christmas. But the Harder and Steenbeck airbrushes I'm not anywhere an airbrush specialist at all, but I really just like the feel of those compared to like the Badgers are definitely a difference you can feel in. And again, some people are going to have preferences one or the other, but I really like the Harder and Steenbeck one. So, and then I think I don't know what I procured a few models. Dragon at Age of Sigmar Dragon, just for fun.
Oh, okay. The big dragon.
Yep, the big dragon. That was another Christmas present to myself. I'm sure I bought some other miniature too that I should build at some. Well, build as part of one of our hobby challenges. I think
we'll get there. Yeah. How about you, Coop? Anything getting airbrush paint on it, or?
No, I haven't really painted anything or built anything, but I've been 3D printing a little bit. I think I did some Marvel Crisis Protocol stuff for Brice and Ty, and
pretty slick, like card container and token. Oh yeah,
and then a Shrek head.
Landon's random quest if either of my, he goes, do you think you could ask Josh and Troy if there's any 3D prints for a Shrek head? And I said, a what? And he said, like Shrek from the movie, his head. And I said, why do you want a Shrek head? He goes, it would be cool to like put on my desk. I said, okay, fair point. So I asked if either of you had a Shrek head, and Josh found a Shrek bust. Like that's, we could bronze that.
Yeah. He's I mean, it turned out pretty good. It's
Oh
it's like Shrek. Yeah.
That's great.
And I had the green. I was like, oh, that's awesome. Like I usually buy just a couple random colors. And I was like, oh, I have black and gray, and oh, sweet, I have green. All right, perfect.
That is so awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, next time I see you, I'll bring it over.
Fantastic. So 3D printing. Brice, how about you? Other than getting yourself better, home renovations, have you been any hobby in the mix?
You pretty much hit it on the head. The only hobby I've been doing is the second hobby of home renovation, woodwork, closet building. A lot of that going on right now. So not any hobby, sadly.
When you're done with your house, you can come and do my countertops.
No. When I'm done, I'm retiring. This is it. This was an investment in my future, and when it's done, other people can do it for me.
All right, so let's talk about the new hobby accountability challenge. So last year we did the kind of monthly goals. We each set our own goal, met it, didn't meet it, kick in a little money towards a charity of choice. We are changing it up, and we are going to kick off a new hobby accountability challenge. I think the basic tenets of this is that there will be a scoreboard. So we'll score results each month to help with the measurable component of our goals. And we also are setting a group goal. So for the sake of our next episode, when we set our recording date about a month from now, each person out of the four of us will have to have worked towards the common goal. And I think we said our first month hobby challenge is going to be 5 rank and file miniatures. So not heroes, not independent character models, but just 5 basic unit. Could be AOS, could be 40K, could be whatever, kind of whatever game, could be zombies from Zombicide or, basic miniatures from a board game. But 5 of them, and will be scored for 5 points, a very simple 5-point rubric. And we'll put pictures up on, during the recording on YouTube and potentially on when we post the episodes up to the website. But will be scored on 5 points. You get 1 point if you have assembled your miniatures. So 5 miniatures have to be assembled. If you find pre-assembled minis for a board game, hey, you get a point. Point 2, primed. You have to prime them. They can't just be bare plastic. So that can be anything from rattle can to airbrush to zenithal highlighter, whatever it may be. There has to be a bare minimum of 1 primer coat to earn the second point. The third point is the tabletop 3-color, so 3-color minimum. That gets you 3 points total if they're built, primed, and you've put three base colors on. The fourth point is the use of any advanced hobby techniques. So this is very broad intentionally, but any kind of weathering, any kind of, highlighting or dry brush, whatever texture, whatever finish you put on, any kind of advanced, and I should put air quotes, advanced hobby techniques earns 4 points. Then you earn a 5th point if the model is completed, so painted completely and based. So scenic basing of some kind, minimum of 1 or 2 components to that, texture and colors. But completed model gets you 5 points. So we'll do a monthly reveal. We'll go through the scoreboard, rate, where we finished on it. And then the 9 months, we'll total up the score and have some kind of grand challenge, hopefully minded towards a charity, and anoint a grand champion of charitable hobby accomplishment. but each month the lowest score must wear the Fez of Failure for the following episode. So since we have a YouTube component, thank you, Josh, for displaying the Fez of Failure, will be worn on video for at least the banter. So our playing, hobbying, crowdfunding library segment, the full first part of the episode, whoever finishes last or lowest will have to wear the Fez of Failure. We'll have to come up with a tiebreaker if we have multiple Fez nominees for a month. But that is the hobby challenge as it stands. A reminder, the first challenge for our February episode when we reveal will be to paint 5 rank and file miniatures. So infantry of some type, obviously not huge monsters, not big time heroes or character models, but 5 models. Any ideas? I mean, I don't want to jump ahead, and I know Troy, you have some serious Adepticon prep, so you might be able to count 5 of your Gene Stealers even.
Yep, I will. Yeah, I tried to get us to be in line with hobby that I had to do, because that'll that'll help it get done, because it has to get done. So
I think I'm going to work towards getting either a Blood Angel or a Necron kill team together. I want to, before I miss another edition of 40K, I don't want to play kill team rather, but I want to play a small 40K game, Troy, before I miss this edition entirely. So figure I've got about a year, so I might as well get started on getting that army together.
yep, and we can. I just bought a whole bunch of new Gene Stealer Cult book came out this week, so that is kind of the one army I have painted and ready to rock and roll. So excited for, and they completely sucked in in this edition with their current codex. Even though I played them a couple times, but they just so excited to have their new book out.
Brice or Josh, any early ideas on what you might try to do? I don't want to put you on the spot, but if you got any early thoughts.
There's this sorry, Josh. I'll just go so I don't make it more awkward. There's this preview that just came out last weekend or the weekend before that really has me strangely optimistic for a game I haven't played in 9 months, for an army that I haven't played in 2 years. But I might try to do a little Deepkin work.
Oh yeah,
new book.
Nice.
Yeah, cool.
I was rearranging some things and stumbled across. I got a fairly large collection of orcs that I always forget about. 40K orcs, and I may bust out 5 or 10 boys and get some. I think that I have them assembled already. So
you're 20% of the way there.
1 point. Yep.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe I'll throw some paint on those bad boys.
I feel like each month I'm going to be gambling with myself if I think anyone got 3 points, and I'll play the game of like hedging my bet on. Maybe I'll go to the 4th point. I think that's the strategy I'm going to take each month. I game the system.
Are you only trying to compete with the lowest, or are you trying to win?
No, lowest. I just don't want to wear the Fez. Yeah. What can I do to stay just above the Fez of failure month over month? Like February is a shoe-in for Troy because he's got to do it for Adepticon. So
yeah.
I feel like the 5 point is going to be a guarantee for him because he's got the deadline of a pressure deadline.
Yep, that's and that's the only time I actually perform. So as the last 2 years have proved.
All right. Well, speaking of deadlines, we have a bedtime for Brice tonight that we got to stick to as I check my watch and the time to keep the show moving. So let's go from hobby into Kickstarter. Let's be honest. CMON announced or opened their 50th Kickstarter today, and I think it instantly drew Brice's attention.
Yeah.
Maybe an instant back. I don't know. He might have already clicked.
I didn't do it yet, but I don't know how I'm not going to. We can just say that.
Yeah. So Marvel Zombies. that kind of licensing and IP that they have combined with the zombie side style of game. Looks like they'll mix up the rules a little bit to accommodate super zombies. So the base box game, the zombie characters fight kind of rank and file. Is it shield troopers and brutes and whatever? So, and then the expansion, not the $200 Galactus monolith statue miniature and expansion, but the other expansion is the X-Men, where it's the heroes fighting against zombies. Introduces hero mode, so they'll have a zombie mode and a hero mode. That's on Kickstarter now. I think they're already over the $2.5 million mark.
It was like 2.8 last time I looked.
Yeah, it was just one of those day one CMON Kickstarters where they just blow past the the $1 million goal or whatever, and it's how many million are they going to get. So this will be interesting because I think there's a little bit of zombie side fatigue out there with all of the sets they've released in the last few years. They did second edition, and the wasn't fulfilled, but now the connection to the Marvel IP, I think, will see this one get sub and boosted over any CMON Kickstarter fatigue.
So is there, I think we've talked about this before, is there no limit on like who can have a Kickstarter? Because I feel like CMON shouldn't be able to anymore.
Yeah, there's no upper end. I think it's just if consumers will continue to allow them to practice that business model, and looking at $2.8 million says yes, consumers will still allow them to use that business model.
Right. Well, and Kickstarter, like, they're taking their cut, so like they're not going to complain. Like, what? Oh, $2 million, $3 million that we get. I don't know what somebody. I don't know
they're
what the number
10% or
yeah,
whatever.
They're taking they're like 5-10%. I think you're more right. It's like a significant chunk. So yeah, they're not going to discourage big, huge Kickstarters from using the platform, right? They're like, that's their whole point. But the other one I threw on here, and just because crazy search engines know they know too much about me, is this game I ran into from Van Ryder Games. They're doing Kickstarter for Final Girl. And it's like, what got me is I think I talked about way back when, the game that they put out, a solo game called Hostage Negotiator, where you basically, and you're playing against the game, and there's somebody who's got hostages, and you're trying to limit the amount of hostages that get killed. And it's got a really interesting kind of, creates a lot of drama and intensity. And so they took kind of that engine and they kind of rebuilt it. And then they have a game called Final Girl, which is a horror, again, solo mechanic, with and basically the idea of, you don't know, the final girl, right? That's kind of in most horror films, like there's the trope of there's the one female who's left, who usually has to face off against whoever the big baddie is in it. So so interesting. If you're into that, they're running a Kickstarter currently, and so should still be going when this goes out. I think it still has a couple weeks left, similar to what Marvel Zombies has. So if you, again, it's because I liked Hostage Negotiator. I don't know. I'm not a big horror guy, so I don't know if I'll dip into this one, but thought it was interesting.
Nice. Yeah, Van Ryder they have their own niche. They don't do a ton of stuff, but what they do is fairly well received and critically acclaimed. So I'm interested. I'll check that one out. I hadn't really seen that. That one kind of escaped my notice up until now. So,
and this is actually, I think, their volume 2. So they had actually, there is a first chapter, or whatever they're calling, of Final Girl, and so this Kickstarter is actually for a second, not second version, but a second set of scenarios for it.
So before we get to the library, just a couple of other items of geekery. So the one thing today that was an instant buy for me the moment it went live, Teldore Reborn, the campaign guide. So Darrington Press, the Critical Role publisher, released it. What is interesting, so the book had come out maybe 6-7 years ago as using OGL. A lot of the same content contributors were back, like James J. Hake, and obviously Matthew Mercer and others, but they've advanced the timeline 20 years from Vox Machina to the Mighty Nine, so campaign 2 that they did. So they advanced the setting 20 years. A lot of gorgeous art, really cool maps, character templates. Likely that you guys may see some components of this book in some way in the near future, as the Rime of the Frostmaiden ramps up, and I'm looking for what to do for the next campaign. So there may be a reason there, but I just bought it when it went live in the Critical Role store today. Pretty excited, and I did see the credits. So Ivan Van Norman did. He has a producer credit on it because I know he's working with Darrington Press, and then Chris De La Rosa did some of the graphic design and layout work I saw in the credits. So
Nice.
of Outbreak Undead fame. So I was interested to see that. But yeah, so Teldore Reborn, the campaign guide released today, should have that in a number of days. I'm very excited to flip through that source book. And then somebody else put this one on there. Meph DM question from Twitter. Did I do that long ago and forget?
I did it when you mentioned it long ago because I knew we would forget.
Was that
this was just
if you can DM for a table of 4 people, living or dead, from history or pop culture, who would they be?
Yep.
And Meph never really answered. He's like, I'll need some time to think about it. And then the thread disappeared and he deferred it. So I have to go back to him and say, hey, did you have long enough to think about it? But do you want mine or all of our each of us?
I want yours. I want at least I want yours. I figure like you got to throw that out there, and then.
So I'm DMing for them, right? So I can't like say Matthew Mercer's the DM and then 4 other players, right? I'm the DM for those 4. Okay. First is Robin Williams. He's at the table. Second, this is tough. I don't want too many authors. Second's Joe Abercrombie. Third, and I'm probably gonna not like this in the future, but third is Will Wheaton. And fourth is, part of me wants to go to like Marcus Aurelius or one of the Stoics, just because I think that would be fantastic to introduce like that just level of like gravitas and but instead I'm going to go Morgan Freeman because the voice. I just want him to narrate what his character does all the time, and I think that would be great. So Robin Williams, Morgan Freeman, Joe Abercrombie, and Will Wheaton. That's my table.
I think that's good. I don't have a good answer, so maybe let's bring this back. Maybe this will be a recurring theme next couple episodes, and we have to get Meph's answer at some point.
Yeah,
if that means we whether through social media or we'll drag him on here for a 10-minute, 2-hour segment.
Good deal. All right, let's open the doors to the library. I'll go first. So I set my goal for 2022 reading challenge on Goodreads at 48 books. So I did 36 in 2021, which was 3 per month. So I upped it to do 4 per month for 48 books in the year. Off to a good start. I finished up Critical Role Vox Machina, the Kith and Kin. So it's the story of Vex and Vax, the twins from Vox Machina, the first season. They had a novelist come in and write it, and it takes place roughly 5 to 6 years before the events of the campaign. So there's flashbacks to when they're kids and, split between their mother's home and the elven city of Singorn. And then some of the events as they struck out from, runaways as teenagers and what they did and where they went. So really enjoyed it. Finished that one. Then I was listening to Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil. So set in Savannah, Georgia in the late 70s, early 80s. Dr. Gabe said, Savannah's where I grew up. I've met some of these people, like they're real people. And like, I knew it was like relatively based on real events and people in Savannah. So enjoyed that. That's one of those that I've had on my like to read list forever, and just finally got back and said, okay, I'm going to knock it out. So got it on Audible, had a lot of fun listening to it.
Who's the author on that? I should know, and I can't remember.
John Berendt, right?
Parent. Yeah, there we go.
Berendt, yeah. Published in 94. So yeah, an old book that I just never read, but always heard was great. And now I'm gonna want to go because they made it into a film in the late 90s, early 2000s, if I remember. So I want to go see the movie as well. I finally finished The Talent of Horus. So Troy, you lent that book to me years ago. Aaron Dembski bought in, and I had read the first 100 pages, and then it sat there forever. So I picked that up and finished it. Very cool. Probably just as good as some of the early Horus Heresy books. I mean, like, just really cool characters and seeing what you historically, not that it's real, that you think of as evil characters, from the history of 40K lore, but identifying with them and feeling like, Kaon Ishkandar's pain and like what he went through losing his legion and like, finding what he finds. It's not a spoiler. It's so old at this point, but reuniting with Abaddon and these other characters from the other kind of fallen legions is really cool story. So loved finishing that. And then I also I went on a Troy Weiss reading binge this month. I just finished The Nine Princes in Amber, Roger Zelazny's first book in the Amber Chronicles, I think it is called, or the Chronicles of Amber, whatever it might be. And interesting. Enjoyed it. I think, it shows, I don't want to say shows its age. It was written in what, 73, 74, 75.
Like mid 70s, I believe. Yep.
But, and we talked a little bit about it, like they smoke cigarettes at times, like they're in this fantasy world and they have a cigarette and it's like they're just trying to be cool because that's what was cool in the 70s. But yeah, so that is kind of what I've read. So I hit 4 books already in January. Now the next 1 or 2 that I finish is just padding my stats as I head into February. I got to get as much done as I can before summer because then reading time kind of declines a little bit. And then I started watching a new show that came highly recommended. A buddy of mine told me, you got to watch this. It's really funny. It's really good. The Righteous Gemstones. So season 2 just started on HBO. Written and created by Danny McBride from like Eastbound and Down and Vice Principals and all sorts of other stuff. Really think Danny McBride's funny. And this is about a TV evangelist like family. So John Goodman is the patriarch of the family. Adam Devine and Danny McBride are the brothers. Bunch of other character actors I recognize. I watched the first 2 episodes and it's hilarious. Like I'm just dying laughing out loud by myself watching this show.
It's real good.
Season 1, there was a couple years like before season 2 release because COVID hit and everything. So
yeah,
now I'm going to try to catch up because season 2 is being released each week now.
Yeah,
that's my library. A lot of reading, a little bit of watching. How about you, Josh?
Well, I think we're all kind of talking about our totals from last year. I think I hit 10 books, which is, not a lot for you guys, but for me, it's a lot. So
that's double your 2020 total.
I know, right? A few of them were shorter books, but they still counts. But yeah, I am so close to being done with Before They're Hanged, Joe Abercrombie, the First Law trilogy, book 2. Then I'm gonna dive right into book 3 because I'm really enjoying this story. All the characters are really fun. I care about a lot of them, right? And it's good story. I really like it.
Somebody teach this man that you can't care about Abercrombie's characters.
Yeah.
Don't love anyone.
No, right, but you get invested, right?
I know.
But yeah, and I've been watching Station 11. It's a post-apocalyptic show on HBO.
Based on a book.
It's a book.
Is it?
It's a really good book. Yeah.
Emily St. John something, or
Yep.
Emily Handel St. John. Yeah.
Cool. I didn't know it was a book. I just happened to see it when I was like looking through stuff, and I was like, oh, I'll give first episode a try. and it kind of hooked me. And I mean, it's got themes to what's going on now, right? Like pandemic, and so it's actually a flu that wiped out a large portion of the population, and so then it's like the trials and tribulations of folks living after that. So
yeah, no, that book's been on my a really good book. It's been on my list to read, and then real life got too close to it, and I'm like, I really don't need to read. It was we are living in apocalyptic world, so I didn't really need to read a book about it. That was a little bit really close. What I've heard is it was pretty close, like exactly what you said. Just what you just said is kind of on the book cover, so it's like that. But at some point, maybe I'll go back and now I'm kind of torn because now I'm like, oh well, maybe I'll just dive into the HBO series of people like that.
It's not a very long book.
No.
So if you have an intent to read it, it's quick to consume.
Okay.
You're not investing in like a 30-hour Audible, 1,000-page tome. It's so
cool. But so into that, I think I'm about halfway through the series. So
nice.
Yeah, very good.
Brice, how about you? Any reading? Any Audible as your kind of, is it called convalescing? Is that what you call recovering from a long illness?
There hasn't been any reading at this time of year. I get very wrapped up in the NFL playoffs, so I just listen to podcasts all the time. But I did actually watch, and I don't remember if you guys mentioned this last time or if it was out, but Don't Look Up on Netflix, a movie about a comet that's about to hit Earth, and Leonardo DiCaprio and I forget the female actor that are the main characters in it. But it's I really enjoyed it. It's kind of sad because it makes you realize like how sad our society is, and I think that's kind of what the intent of the movie is. But I enjoyed the movie, and it was worth a watch, I'd say.
And you want to strangle Jonah Hill and Meryl Streep like so badly.
No spoiler. I haven't watched it yet.
No spoilers.
But I watched that from the trailer. I got that impression too.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Can't we say 99%?
It's very good. It's very good.
Excellent. Don't Look Up. Troy, how about you?
As I realized, as what Brice said it, I haven't. I was trying to think about watching. Like I haven't watched anything, but I think it's just because I've been watching a lot of sports. It's between volleyball at the end of December, and then football has been consuming any of my TV time lately. So, but reading, I think I've been mentioning I was working on Leviathan Falls, which is the last book of The Expanse, and all I would say is was one of the most satisfying endings to an epic series that I've experienced. They did just a really nice job. I mean, the last book is, I wouldn't say it's like outstanding or whatever, but it just, you got done and you were like, yep, that was good. Like, and like they put an end on it. They put a bow on it. They kind of, the last book had a little bit of I'll call it fan service, where they did kind of, bring back some things through that were come back through the series. So if you're not an Expanse person, or even if you are, I would, highly recommend diving in. I have not. Now I never really watched the Amazon series. I'm on like somewhere in the second season, so I may now get my fix from kind of catching up on the Amazon series, which I believe is coming to their last season. The season 6 is going to be the end. So I think that story is not going to go as far as the books did. I think they're just going to finish through book 6 or so. But they could also put a nice ending on there. It'll be interesting to see that. So, and then I finished the penultimate, is that the right word? Penultimate book in the Dresden series so far, Peace Talks. And I know Ty, and now I understand why Ty was kind of poking around like, oh, you're reading Peace Talks, whatever. And all I'll say is now I have to dive right into Battlefront. What is it? No, it's Battleground, which is the I won't say the last or the latest book in that series. Because a little bit like the story just keeps there's not, unlike a lot of the 16 before, which were very much self-contained, this one it's not a cliffhanger. This is like like, yeah, you just got to, the story keeps going, which would make sense because he released them in the same year, didn't he?
Very, very quick.
Very quickly behind each other. So it kind of makes sense for what he was doing on
Yeah.
that. And I don't know. I have been slowly catching up on Dresden from the very beginning. So I did not wait 7 years between books, right? Because I think there were what was that? Am I right on that? Between this book and the last one of the series? It's something like that. It's right. It's like a large stretch of time.
Yeah, that sounds right.
That before he had kind of gone off and done a bunch of other series before he came back to that. So I can imagine, again, people who maybe were Dresden fans and kind of just waiting forever. So that's where I am. I got a 30-book goal for this year. I think I hit whatever I think we talked about. I think I hit the low to mid 20s for last year, which was a little bit under my goal, but not too. But I looked back and I was really happy with all the books I read, though. So I guess that's.
Yeah, I felt like I had a very strong showing
Yeah.
for 2021. Like I read some quality literature. There wasn't a lot of like,
Yep.
I don't want to call it cheap filler, but like.
My only, I would say, I don't know if it's regret, was the one book club audio book we did.
Arcadia.
The Arcadia one.
Yeah.
Like I go through that and I'm just like, that's the only one. It's like, yeah, that was the dud. Like out of these, like,
Yeah.
like I got something out of that one. I'm like, yeah, that one, that was, but that's how you know. That's how you learn. So.
All right.
It was still an interesting read, though. I'll say that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think reading it would have been terrible. Listening to it with the different voice actors made it terrible.
Yeah, correct. Yes.
Yeah. All right. So that brings us to the part in the show where I would recommend you all buckle your seatbelts and refresh your drinks, or unbuckle, go about the cabin, and then come back because we're going to take a short break and go about the cabin ourselves. And when we come back, your Captain Brice is going to take you into the 2022 hobby objectives. Welcome back with Captain Brice. Here we are, 2022 hobby objectives. This should be a relatively quick segment, but first and foremost, Brice, we are glad to have you recording with us again. We'll work on the video signal for next time.
Yeah.
But it's kind of been like we're recording without our right hand.
That's tough. I figured I'd be at the left hand.
Well, I'm left-handed.
I'm left-handed.
So,
yeah, me too. Are we all?
Except for
No.
Keenan.
Josh has always been a little suspect, so now we know.
Yeah.
So.
Coop,
I can see colors. I have a normal hand.
yeah, Coop is sus.
Yeah. Well, hold it. Now, maybe we're not the minority. Maybe this is just the man keeping us down. Like maybe we are seeing the colors right. And maybe we do have the right hand, and we're just being, because we're minorities, we're being.
Well, we definitely have the right hand.
Yeah.
We're being trolled by the world.
Yep.
I don't know. My scissors work. How about yours?
See, look at this.
Wow, that's cold-blooded. Next thing, you're gonna send me a hidden picture that says colorblind people suck. All right, let's do it. Hobby objectives for 2022. And Brice, since you have returned and you are the captain now,
Yeah.
what is your first hobby objective for the new year?
My number one goal, and I think that the rest are impossible without it, is to remodel my new hobby space, which is requires a new desk to be built. So that is the goal. Hopefully, I'm just about done with a different project, and once that's done, I'm gonna take a break on the home renovation to build that.
Where is the new hobby station being set up? What part of the house? Same room or different?
Directly next to that room, just on the back side. I, for Christmas, refinished that room and turned it into like an office space because my girlfriend is in school and teaches school, and we have too many creatures in the house that make a lot of noise, so she needed somewhere that was relatively quiet. So that was that, and this room back here doesn't get utilized, so I said, let's just make the swap, and I'm going to actually build in a really nice space with a bunch of cabinets and a big U countertop. So
Nice.
pretty excited to get that rolling. And then I'm gonna do. I've always wanted to try to do graffiti, so I'm gonna do a BOD North graffiti on my wall because it's a
Awesome.
brick wall. So that's part of the plan.
Love it. Can't wait to see
Cool.
it.
Yeah, so
We'll have to have
that's number one.
airbrush seminar in the second
Yeah.
quarter there. Destination airbrush seminar. When I don't go to Adepticon, that'll be my excuse to get away for a weekend.
There you go.
All right, Troy, top of your list.
Yeah, top of my
2022
list
hobby
is basically what I'm for Q1 basically dive into my Space Hulk refresh. We got to dust it off after 2 years, and I have these wonderful models from the other Josh that are gonna probably play some Space Hulk this year, and because of those guys, I feel like I need to up the game on some of the other miniatures that we get out there. So, gonna do a bunch of Gene Stealer, which are there's some Gene Stealers that are basically 30 years old there. That need a little I think they got a dry brush at one point about a decade ago, and so they probably can get a little bit of a refresh, and I may swap in with some newer models and then some of that stuff too. So and then some of the Terminator squads may kind of either repaint or replace them with some new chapters or whatever it which the good news is that I can go with where I want, and also I can set my goals that like I'm replacing things, so when I stop and decide I'm done, I can just use the stuff I have. So
Nice. Josh, I'm going to make you do 2 because it looks like the other guys did 4 and you have 5. So I'm going to make you do 2.
Okay. Awesome. I can combine 1 too, but so I want to do a Marvel Crisis Protocol team. I want at least one playable squad, right? So that when we get together, I'm not playing with primed models or just gray models. I want to play with like my own painted team. So that is my goal. Get that done. And then kind of along with that, I've had this apartment terrain printed for a while. I think I might have even primed it. I forget. It's over in a drawer somewhere. But yeah, I want to assemble that and like just get some colors on it so it doesn't look crappy. Like it doesn't have to be perfect, but if I do it as part of our a reoccurring monthly thing, I'll do a better job of it. But just some playable terrain. That's the goal.
Nice. Well, I'm gonna go big with my first one. So I got HeroQuest. We're playing it, and even Landon goes, "This would be really cool if these were painted." And I said, "Yeah, buddy, it would be, but that's a lot
There's
of
some
time."
brushes in the basement, kid.
Yeah, but that's a lot of time and a lot of minis and furniture and stuff to paint. But I do think it would look pretty cool if I could get my HeroQuest set, even if it's just the base set and the heroes and the doors and furniture painted. So I think with the airbrush compressor, that's where I'm going to start, with some of the furniture and the doors, just getting the big base coats done and then batch paint. So maybe I'll do like 5 of the goblins or 5 of the skeletons or, something just as kind of the first challenge. So getting that HeroQuest paint set painted this year would be number 1 for me. And I'll bring it back with another one. So similar to Josh, I want to do a Crisis Protocol. So I had 10 models or so commission painted back when we were doing the Weekender because I wanted to play with painted miniatures. But I'll have my color consultant help me with what paints I need for some heroes to do maybe 3 or 4 of my own to mix in. And then along that same lines I've got probably like 14 boxes, the little hero boxes of 1 or 2 heroes in each. I'd like to get assembled and just have my backlog to paint. Because I've kind of cherry picked the ones I want throughout, but now like I want to get Moon Knight and Blade and some of those like assembled and in the queue to be painted. So that's my second one. Brice, how about you? What's your second goal for hobby objectives for 2022?
I'd say my second, but also my number one goal, because of how much fun we had when we were playing it, is to do like an actual board and do it justice. And I know for however long ago it was when it first came out, we had all these grand aspirations and
Yeah.
ideas. But I really, really want to do that, and that's like top of the list for me. I have so many ideas of things I want to do from comics from when we were kids and stuff like that. That I really want to get that done and make that a focus so that we have that, and maybe 2 sets of terrain that we can swap in and out. Because I just thought of this the other day, but I really want to do one of the shield air bases, like a plane.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Be cool.
So yeah, that's number one, is getting MCP table put together.
Nice.
Number one,
Yes. Yes. Hobby space has to be finished first, then massive hobby projects begin. Understood. Josh, how about you? What's another hobby objective for you for 2022?
Yeah, kind of along the same lines of terrain. I've had some AOS/Frostgrave terrain that I have primed, and I've been like wanting to get that to the table, and like I have an idea of like I want to base it and kind of like raise it up a little bit so that it's sort of line of sight blocking, because it's not real tall, but kind of have different levels and stuff. So it's kind of a ruins, like a stone ruins type thing. And I have some grandiose ideas and it's not going to be anything fancy, right? It's um, just kind of like the different levels I want to do and stuff. So, having that, just getting that done, right? It's kind of been on the backlog, and it won't take a ton of time to get it done. I just need to devote that time. So I'm putting it out there as something I need to get done.
Nice. And Troy, I think that brings us to you for the second of your 2022 objectives.
I think I'll skip down my list a little bit and say like a 40K kill team, because I'd like to get, I think, like you said, either small 40K or at least maybe play some 40K kill team in the next couple months here. I know we have a few other guys in the group that have been playing a lot, so I want to dive in on that. And I invested in all the stuff, so get to it. And then it will give me a reason to kind of like, I have a million boxes of models, and so whether it's sisters or some new Marines or something like that, I think that'd be a good way to get motivating, because I'm much as we learned, I'm really good at building and painting when I have a goal, or I'm gonna go play with them and have something to do with it. So
Excellent. And then do you want to bring it back with another one? We'll just kind of keep
Sure.
the snake style draft going.
Sure. And then the other, like you guys are talking about boards, and that's my and we'll see. This is the most ambitious one, is probably kind of going from we had done, Josh had made a Zombicide Black Plague kind of board with what were the
Her stars.
the Her stars. You cast those things. It's like a cement block. Those and now in the that was probably what 4 or 5 years ago, right?
Like that.
And so now everything's come with 3D printing, and that is, I really think it'd be cool to do like a board kind of more like a village, or very much mimic some of the board tiles with some of that stuff. Or there's some stuff that you can print. I'm pointing over here to the Hagglethorn Hollow resin buildings that I got, and there's some rules out there and some ways to kind of print some bases for those to use them in like a zombicide, like a fantasy zombicide Black Plague game. So that's my most ambitious. We'll see if I actually get to that, but I think that would be cool to just kind of do. And again, my motivation there would be that's a cool game to kind of bring to a con, like a local con or something like that, and just run it for people. And it's pretty low effort, and and people have fun, and it'd be cool to get something out of your investment. It's cool to share it, right? You put all the work in, and then you go and kind of show it off in some ways. So
Definitely. Josh, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of like a few folks have said, doing a Crisis Protocol like board. So not just painting the terrain that I want to do, but like actually having, a 4x4, maybe 4 tiles, maybe like 6 tiles, and then you could swap in and out stuff. It kind of sounds like what Brice was talking about. That I think that would be really cool. Or at least have enough terrain to fill a table, right? So yeah, that's sort of one of my goals. And then to kind of just round it off here, I really want to take a page out of your book, Ty, and purge any AOS stuff that I'm not wanting to play or not playing and don't want to build anymore, or just get rid of stuff that doesn't bring me joy, right? So Marie Kondo it.
And I've kind of lost track where we are. Brice, do you want to share your last one or two?
Yeah, I had 2 specific armies, but I think instead of putting a name on it, I just want to, for the first time in probably like 3 years, finish a 2,000 point or just an idea of an army, whatever that means to me, however many units it is. But I want to actually finish an army. And then I did one more that's important because I do still have all intentions of someday, hopefully, running my own event and raising money for things I care about. I do have all this terrain next to me that needs to get painted, so I'd like to get. I don't know if all of it is realistic this year, but a good portion of it done, so that Troy and Josh don't curse my name for all the time they spent on me and to not have it painted.
Excellent. Yeah, I've had this box of 3D printed buildings from Anthony Polcastro after NashCon 2019. I think I was like, "Hey, can I get you to print some?" And he did. And like I need to paint that stuff just to use for Frostgrave or just to have done, because the buildings are so cool. And one of them, I'm looking at it right now. Just the other day I took it and I was literally taking cobwebs off of it and like dusting it because it had sat there for so long in a lost corner of the basement. The Wizard Tower, it's like the 3-tiered, it's like this big. It's just a huge like component piece that'd be great as a centerpiece for a Frostgrave game, or great on the table for even for like in-person D&D, just whatever it might be to use it, or for an AOS table. But I want to get that done. And then similar to Brice's finishing an army, the last army that I painted was that Deepcast army, for Holy Wars a few years ago. So I don't know if it's a series of smaller forces, like 500 point at a time, but like get some Blood Angels or Necron, or like my my Ironjaws project that just to do some blocks of like 500 points. Maybe not an army for a competitive tournament or anything, but just some units, get some points together, and back to that cohesive force, of painting, because it really has been a couple years since I did any significant. Not to say other hobby I've done is insignificant, but like focused, cohesive armies. With the ultimate goal, I'd really like to get like the orcs done for, maybe it's Holy Wars this next fall, maybe in November. That's the objective. But get one of these armies done to that standard that I'm proud of, not just slapping instant colors on and getting it out the door for a weekender or something. But just put some time and energy into one of my armies. Troy, any others? I think it might be you bringing up
my other, and it's the theme that you guys started with, is I do have on here, I'd love to do some Marvel Crisis Protocol, kind of get my own, because it feels like we have a little bit of momentum to play that every once in a while. So Loved, and again, the miniatures are so cool. So even if they're a great kind of, I think, project to just do, even if they just sit on the shelf and you only break them out every once in a while. There's some cool ones there. So love to see. There's definitely, and there's so many cool. I mean, when it came out and I didn't pay attention for a while, and now all the different heroes that are out now, there's some cool ones that are calling to me. So we'll see how that goes.
Excellent. So we've got some pretty aggressive objectives. We'll see kind of where our hobby challenge takes us to help get these done, and where we end up. May or may not revisit this list, at mid-year and check in. But I think, for me, it's all about just setting some, do a little bit, not every day, but a little bit every other day or every few days, just to see progress again. Because I've got clutter from my failed Holy Wars attempt, in the fall, still on the desk. Like the sprues and everything has just been untouched for several months now. So it's just going to be that focus to get a little bit done, because I do enjoy it, and it's something I've filled with other hobbies and other, time wasters at times in lieu of painting. But I definitely enjoy painting. So maybe it'll be some Discord hobby banter nights, or
Yep.
as we work on the challenge, we can always, schedule some hobby time, even if it's in person. Bring a travel kit over to one of your guys' houses and assemble models, or Brice a airbrush weekend up by you, whatever it might be, to help get us there. But we'll certainly have some accountability working in our favor as we head in the rest of this year. But I think, that gets us almost to the end of the show before Brice's bedtime. So we can wrap up with any BOD news and events, and then get Brice off to bed at a reasonable hour. So maybe he can
crushed it.
make D&D tomorrow. So I think, certainly right around the corner is it Holy Wars? Or is it? Yeah, it's Holy Wars,
Yeah.
not Holy Havoc. Holy Wars
Super Bowl
7
weekend.
Reforged, February 12th to 13th, Naperville, Illinois. Steve Herner. This takes it back to the doubles format. So going forward, I think we've talked about this in the past, but all Holy events will be team doubles events. He's working on a new, pretty amazing tower that'll be a centerpiece on a new table, I think, that he'll have for Holy Wars. But that's coming up. Then right after that, and end of March, is Adepticon down in Schaumburg, Illinois. Troy will be running a number of sold out Space Hulk games and a few other events. I think maybe our February episode will probably talk in depth about kind of Adepticon preview, what's coming up and what Troy will be doing, and Josh for that matter, and Brice. I know you'll be involved in TOing, if I recall correctly. So lots of big news in that avenue for that con, which probably will get some dedicated airtime. Then Origins, June. I don't know. There's probably something in between Adepticon and Origins, but for now, as far as our calendar goes,
I did some searching to fill in some things, and this is what I found. So if we find any more local or not so local ones, we can definitely add them in here. But
yeah, so Origins. Now I did see you added in Columbus, Indiana. I believe you meant Columbus, Ohio.
Ohio, yep.
And combined with GD, is that the Games Day Expo or the?
Yeah, it's a computer gaming and electronic gaming and art and creative stuff. So it's
interesting.
So it sounds like I didn't follow all this stuff last year, but I think it was two conventions that were kind of trying to go through COVID, and they were and they're local to Columbus, and so it sounds like they combined it for a lot of success.
Under their wing.
Right, and it definitely some synergies between those two groups of people, and so it sounds like they're doing that going forward for that. So at one of these days, have to get back to Origins and check it out. Have good memories from that place, and love Columbus. Definitely. It's a fun town.
Then the return of Nexus Game Fair, June 23rd through the 26th here near Milwaukee in Brookfield, Wisconsin. So definitely that's one try to get to for a day, if not the whole weekend, just to show some support, because I think they did not hold it the last 2 years.
Yeah,
right?
I think they haven't run it 2 years. Yeah, and I haven't touched base that. Again, that's a fun one. Like I may just try and run an event there one day or something. Show some support, and because it's literally in our backyard. So
Right.
Then the granddaddy of them all, Gen Con, is back. First weekend in August, the 4th through the 7th in Indianapolis, Indiana. Should be, I think they're trying to go with a larger crowd than last year. We'll see what happens. They returned, to the convention space last year successfully. Troy had a great time there. You know, long ways off, so we'll see where everything's at then in time. But currently, I think they did announce that, they're planning on having a vaccine and mask policy in place, and they'll reevaluate that as it gets closer if they need to. But hopefully get that one back in full swing, because that is a must attend every year when it's when it's a normal year. So maybe we'll be back to some degree of normalcy.
And badges go on sale in the next week or so, I believe. I think towards the end of this month.
Yep.
And the normal Gen Con thing, then housing stuff.
Housing in February
and then events and everything else later in like April, May. So
that is the conventions coming up. I'm sure we'll insert some other AOS tournaments or events from some of our friends as we get closer to those dates. But I think that brings us to the point in the show where I ask you all to download and share with your friend. Check us out on YouTube, like and subscribe, feed the algorithm gods. Or just listen to us on, Spotify or Apple or Google, or name any big podcast place, and Troy's got us there now. Any new ones, Troy, that
only, I mean, it's behind the scenes, but I did switch to our podcast host so that more of that stuff gets done a little bit more automatically and things like that. So
always looking out for us, Troy.
So we'll see. So if you're listening to us, you're still listening to us. If people aren't listening to us, then I can't help them because they're not listening to us. So,
yeah, tell your friends. Just make sure they're still listening, that we haven't disappeared off their downloads. Otherwise, send any inflammatory email to intern@basementofdeath.com with any suggestions about where you want to listen to us. If you've got feedback, or share your own hobby progress on, if you want to do the hobby challenge along with us, certainly hit us up on Twitter, or, drop a comment on basementofdeath.com when the episodes go up. Love to hear from you. It's always fun. Emails, tweets, whatever it may be. But certainly we look forward to hearing from you all. Brice, it's been good to have you back. You complete us.
Happy to be back, especially when I'm treated like this.
We'll see when it wears off.
So, next time when I have a water.
When he takes, but Brice, you have to tell us what you're wearing, because people don't like all the rest of us.
I have a gray hooded sweatshirt on.
What? You're not pushing anything? I have my Dresden shirt on. Josh is pushing Gamehole Con. Ty's representing the brand.
That's why I lost my camera. I didn't know what to wear.
Well, you could have lied. You could have said, "Oh, I have."
I'm not a liar. Come on.
I have all my BOD stuff on.
I had a Brice themed week. I even wore a BOD shirt to a Planet Fitness.
Wow.
When I went to work out yesterday, I wore a BOD shirt, and I was like, I'm channeling my inner Brice, knowing that I was going to talk to you tonight.
There you go.
All right. I think that's going to do it. So let's just get the show on the road, close out episode 59. It's been fun hanging out with you guys. Hopefully you all enjoy. Keep the dice rolling, the drinks on ice, and no matter what, keep playing and slaying. 5 4 23 12 007 green 19 blue 42 set hut live from the BOD studios. It is Playin and Slayin.